This is fully my second go at this video. I doubt I'll publish both because I'm going to cover a lot of the same ground while I do the same stuff. But this is a Danelectro guitar pedal and I really like it. I love the design. I have a tuner and echo as well. And it arrived today and appeared to work just fine, but it was filthy. There was something in here, I don't even know what it was, some sort of maybe paint or I don't even know what it was. Hopefully it wasn't a bodily excretion of some sort. But it was absolutely gross. So I took it apart and washed it. And that was what I did in the last video, but I was concentrating a lot on what went where and how it all was going to come apart. This is a cast aluminium part with a plastic insert. That's a bit of foam to hold the battery snap. Before I washed it, I put all the screws back in, so these long shafts didn't get water in. That can take a long time to get out. Vintage computers, sometimes you find rusty screws, and I think it's because people washed it and then, you know, the next day, lots of compressed air and everything is the way to go. This button is a ripper. It rotates like that and then comes out the other side with a spring on it. Just push it in, rotate it, and that'll pop straight back out with a spring and all. So I won't do that though because I'm at the reassembly stage and it's got some white lithium grease both on the spring and around the sides of it. So the cleanup involved picking off this weirdness in here, lubricating this. I didn't remove this fully. The nut's done up snug. There's no way to hold it on the top to do it back up. The Danelectro logo is actually chromed metal. I'd always assumed that they were plastic. This has to go in pretty much first, and that much movement in a screw, Phillips head says you've got the wrong size. So this is a number 1. Still got a bit of a wobble in it, and it's a number 2. That's got it. It's my experience. I did that to sort of demonstrate, and because I couldn't remember exactly what it was. It's my experience with Phillips head screws. That's clumsy. It's my experience with Phillips head screws that very often they will appear to require a smaller screwdriver than they actually need. Rotate the screwdriver backwards at first, and as I pass over the start of the lead in the screw, you can feel it kind of click, and then you get started. That's sitting nicely. That's great. It's got 2 locating pins cast into it, plus a screw, and over tighten it. It's a feel thing. The knobs are here. These I haven't washed. You're not going to see those go on, which will be deeply frustrating for some of you. But I just haven't done that yet. I just want to put it back together while I remember it all, and then I can test it and satisfy myself I didn't damage anything. Sometimes, and my Echo, Danelectro Echo, Dan Echo, when I got it, one of these was cracked. These ones are just fine. I found replacements at the time just by searching for the PCB mount, printed circuit board mount jack, on eBay, and just over a considerable period of time looking through all the pictures till I found the ones that matched. The red and the black in the back, I think, denotes whether or not they've got stereo contacts or something from memory. They're cryptically numbered. These are numbered 2 and 4. I can get the other ones. But anyway, don't miss the fact that one's red and one's black on the back. I think it matters, but I just don't remember. And I want to get this together because it's awesome. So I didn't take this plastic part off. I've got a good compressor and I blew it out. I don't imagine for a moment there's a substantial amount of gunge or water left in there. It's not a tight fit. It just snaps in. The compressor would have had a go at it. This is aluminium. It'll be fine. If it's not perfectly dry now, it will be in a week. Beautiful casting, and so deco, Art Deco. So there's a larger question tangled up in all of this. This board goes in first. The screws, 2 of them go into the plastic. They're longer and different. All the rest go into the alley. The ones that go through the PCB are PH1s, Phillips head 1s, they're smaller. And then there are 4 larger ones that attach the base to the unit. And I think the main board as well. But we'll get there. They can only go a certain number of ways. So, with the board, I gave it a scrub and try to clean some of the flux residue off from the soldering process. It can like get sticky and attract dust and stuff and damp, and if it gets conductive, it might be a problem given how high impedance guitar circuits tend to be. So this is the arrangement. Yeah. So first things first, we'll get this board in a way that's satisfactory, and then we'll check our work to make sure that our battery snap routing hasn't gone too far awry. So I cleaned all the flux residue off, which took a while. Lining this up is a bit tricky because there's an LED as well that has to pass through. The other LEDs you can't see from the top. I suspect they are part of the clipping circuit. LEDs are just diodes after all, and diodes are a part of a lot of guitar circuits. I can't, if I just put this down, the weight of it will press on the pots and lift it up. You see that all right? I'll check. Yeah, that's good. So let's screw this back together nice and easy. These 2 longer Phillips head 1 screws go into that plastic cover. And again, I think I mentioned this earlier on, I put all the screws in before I washed it, which is why I can assemble it the same afternoon. Otherwise, I could not. Don't do them up tight at this stage. The whole lot needs to be able to float around to all its happy spots. It's pretty important that it be able to settle in. Again, backwards. You might have heard the click that time. See if we can achieve it over here. It's not a mystical secret or anything. It's pretty common technique, but that doesn't mean that everyone knows about it either. Magnetic screwdrivers. Sometimes a curse, usually a blessing. If I run that backwards, I'm bringing it up here near the camera. No, not today. Oh, there you go. Huh. And the pots, the volume, tone, and sustain pots required work. I believe this is a clone of a pedal made by Marshall called a Governor, from what I read online. Yeah, I may be wrong. All of these pedals do they raise a question? Why? I mean, let's check this all looks lined up. The LEDs, lovely and scented. Why? Why would you do this? When, and let's be clear, you end up with what's called a pedal board if you're playing electric guitar, oftentimes, which is a whole bunch of these things doing all different jobs, all individually powered and wired together and humming and misbehaving. Even when they're turned off, potentially. A lot of them are what they call true bypass, which means the button on the front that enables and disables them fully switches them out of circuit, so that they can have no influence on the sound when they're not in use. This pedal is not true bypass. I don't care, but it's worth observing. But why? When, for a fraction of the cost and a fraction of the inconvenience, a person can have a digital system with foot pedals, and just make sure these haven't gotten loose when the other ones got tight. No. Yeah, a digital system with foot pedals and everything on it. All the effects you can eat. And the answer, I think, and I'm sure the really good ones these days are really good. The answer, I think, these need contact clean and lube sprayed into them, and they need to be rotated about the place to loosen them up. They're moving freely now. It's looking good. God, I love these things. I mentioned that, didn't I? The digital system is great, and properly implemented with 21st century electronics, I would be stunned if it was anything other than what you might call transparent. That is to say, there's no way to detect the difference between. This is a bit tricky. It's got to go in and down all at once. There we go. We're on the way now. It's not the best fit. I think it must be difficult to solder these in a way so they line up perfectly, and I suspect they're not. One way to do it, of course, is to build this and then be in here with a soldering iron. I don't imagine that's how they're made. So back to where I was at. An acoustic guitar, if you'll bear with me for a moment, the instrument is, the envelope of its body that resonates, and the strings and the neck, that's the instrument. With an electric guitar, by the way, I can tell these screws are the ones that were in here because they're shinier, although I believe they're identical to those. Pretty nice alley, plenty of thickness around the holes too. If one got stripped, I could drill it and tap it, or helicoil it. An acoustic guitar, it begins and ends with its sort of physical shape. An electric guitar, oops, sorry, made you wobble. An electric guitar, check that's still properly seated in there. It's a good tight fit. I've just been mucking around, scrubbing it with metho and so on, not metho, isopropyl alcohol and so on. An acoustic guitar, the instrument is the envelope of the wooden body and the fretboard and everything. Hey, maybe it stops at the player's fingertips. Maybe they're included in the sound. I'm sure they make a difference, so let's include them too. So just checking the wiring hasn't for the 9-volt battery, which I'll probably never use, hasn't gotten hooked up on anything that it shouldn't have. No, it's fine. It just comes down the side of the jack. I'm not going to put the bass on tonight. I don't think it just in case there's any sign of damp, maybe a bit in the sponge. An electric guitar, though, is a very different beast. The electric guitar, the full the full sort of envelope of the electric guitar as an instrument includes everything from the player's plectrum or fingertips, pick, if you will, right through to the speaker cone, the amplifier, the pickups and the way they're manufactured, any influence that the body of the guitar has on the sound, chambering, switches, tone pots, capacitors, and they will contribute to differing amounts. You know, capacitors, good capacitors of the right kind are just good capacitors. They're you know, I suppose you can pay extra for magic ones. So the instrument ends at the guitar speaker, and this is a part of the instrument. If you want to sound like George Harrison on certain Beatles albums, the only way to get there is to buy whatever guitar he had, which will matter to some degree, whatever strings he had. But you're going to need, for some of it, a thing called a fuzz face, which is a round pedal with a little smiley face and two knobs, and it looks like a face. And that's the sound he made. And that can be emulated in software. But if you have an actual fuzz face, or you have this, which I believe Marshall made, from what I read, to emulate one of their amp sounds, and, you know, distorting valve amps have a very particular sound, if that's what this involved. These pedals don't compute anything. There's nothing about this pedal that takes the sound and runs a program on it. The capacitors and resistors and the operational amplifiers and the diodes and the settings that can be set through these potentiometers here, they are an analog system which is resonating and misbehaving and doing its own thing. Nothing's being calculated. So from the point where the string starts moving to the point where the cone of the guitar speaker starts moving, and guitar speakers, they need to be particular in their frequency response. A hi-fi speaker is unsuitable. Not enough, I think, high frequency energy in the response of the drivers, I believe. But I reserve the right to be wrong. Go and read Leonard Audio or Rod Elliott's work. The whole system, from the moment the string starts to move through this pedal and to the speaker cone, is a complicated network of flawed resonating systems. Mechanical, electromechanical, perhaps, if you've got a spring reverb, electrical, electronic, electromechanical in the speaker cone, maybe if it's a valve amplifier, the electromechanical characteristics of an operating valve. But from end to end, there's no processing. And in the 21st century, that's remarkable. The entire sound that you'll get if you connect an electric guitar to this, to a transistor or valve amplifier, and to a speaker, is one complicated, weird, resonant system. And I think that's valuable. It's philosophy, I suppose. But it's important. And some problems that are difficult to solve with information processing, you know, input processing, output feedback, are quite easy to solve by other means. I remember reading about one that involved a robot that had to put nuts on bolts, and getting that right was very difficult. It kept cross-threading them. And they had a system which was more precise than a human being, and it still didn't work very well. And so they set the robotic arm vibrating with a flexible cuff, and the additional noise in the system was enough to allow the threads to settle and fix the problem, for example. But that's why I think these are worth doing, because this is part of the instrument. If you want a synthesizer, and synthesizers are awesome, either analog or computerized, But if you want a digital synthesizer, I should say, that's fine. That's fine, and much more affordable, and I suspect in an awful lot of ways much more flexible. But the idea that this is just another resonating part in the same way that everything else in an instrument resonates is quite beautiful to me. And it does it from end to end, from when you touch the string to when the speaker moves. And leaving to one side how mastering was done, that's a part of the magic of a record as well. From the motion of the stylus in the groove, you get a motion of the speaker on the other side. But the goal there is fidelity, and well, I don't know how it became controversial, but there are plenty of more high fidelity mediums than vinyl. But part of the magic is that the system is directly connected. There's no information processing. Like I say, especially in the 21st century, that's special. And I think this adds another layer to the whole vinyl thing, in that this is a part of the instrument. My son and I built a fuzz pedal together with a soldering iron, and he learned how to do all that basic PCB work and stuff, and how everything gets wired up and testing and so on. But what we built is a part, when that pedal is in service, what we built is a part of the instrument that he is playing, in my view. Perhaps controversial, perhaps wrong. I don't know, maybe I should have tested this idea more before putting it on the interwebs, but let's be honest, with the number of subscribers I've got and the number of views I get, who's going to complain? Anyway, this is a beautiful thing. The base plate that goes on here is steel with a massive rubber thing on, and the battery snap clips in the side, and I will install that tomorrow after I've finished cleaning these knobs. Marvelous guitar effects.